Hello, everybody. Thank you for pulling into the Palmetto Pit Stop. My name is Adam, here without Tony for the first time already this season. I know we're off to a great start. He's feeling a little under the weather, not quite 100%, so it'll just be me this week looking forward to Bowman Gray Stadium, the Clash, the first racing action we'll be seeing this year, and just a few weeks away now from the Daytona 500. Super excited for the upcoming season. A lot of stuff really changing in the world of NASCAR since the last time we updated you guys. So much has changed just since then. We've seen some new faces coming in, some faces kind of fading out, some new sponsors coming in, some going out, just the same. A whole lot to get into, but let's get right into it. Guess we'll just start off with some great news first. We have a fan favorite driver and certainly one of my favorites coming back to the sport of NASCAR, Kasey Kahne, returning to the Xfinity Series. He'll be, I believe, racing at Rockingham this year, and that's just growing up with all the drivers that I got to watch win races, just drive the sport in general. I had my favorites. I had my least favorites, of course, just as anyone else. Kasey Kahne seemed like the Carl Edwards kind of guy where everybody loved him, and I'm no different. I'm super attached to those drivers back in the day. When I really started watching, it was about 2007. A lot of that crowd obviously has now retired, mostly just leaving. I think Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch are the only guys, and AJ Allmendinger are the only guys still racing from when I started my first season as a fan. So seeing Kasey Kahne come back, though it's not Cup, hopefully a few things could come that way. I would love to see him start a few races. I just think he has still a little bit left in the tank, and maybe that return to the Rock will really, maybe it'll jumpstart something in him. I'm not saying he'll come back full time, but it would be a lot of fun to see him do that. Just one or two races here and there, see how he gets used to this new generation. This generation of cars, new generation of drivers, a lot has changed since he retired in 2018. So it would just be really cool to see him in more action. But aside from that, we had a new sponsor come aboard for Shane Van Gisbergen. It was kind of theorized that it would happen because of his sponsorship over in Australia, but he is bringing Red Bull back to the Cup Series, which we haven't seen in over a decade now, not since Red Bull Racing shut down. And again, if you want to tie it back to Kasey Kahne, that Red Bull car is Red Bull number 4, being a very recognizable, very iconic car for the short time he did drive it. Absolutely, the die casts are very rare to find and very expensive, if you can believe that. I know sponsorships with diecasts they're pretty tough nowadays with the way that things work with the Lionel deal, where not every company is going to want diecasts made, but Red Bull makes diecasts or at least gives their permission for diecasts to be made for Formula One. I would anticipate that they do the same for NASCAR, and I really can't wait to see those cars on the track. And speaking of cars on the track, we might see one driver a lot less, and not might, it's a certainty. Corey LaJoie going part-time for Rick Ware Racing, and kind of stirring up a bit of controversy, saying that he doesn't want to race in front of like half-empty crowds or something like that for the Truck Series and Xfinity Series, really downplaying the drivers that are in those series. Including his own father, of course, Randy LaJoie, who spent a lot of time in the Truck Series. That was that was a little before my time, so I believe that was the main series that his dad raced in. I think just a lot of people have been taking negatively to him saying that, especially with the year he had in 2024, just nothing really good to speak of other than his first non-restrictor plate top 10, I believe, which was at Darlington at the Southern 500. Other than that, of course, he had his little tiff with Kyle Busch at Pocono and Watkins Glen. There was a huge flip at Michigan where it seemed like he was trying to get get revenge with on Noah Gragson for whatever reason. Just not a great season and not a great look for Corey LaJoie. I don't know what his career is going to look like going forward, but it seems as though for the foreseeable future he won't be racing he won't be racing full time in the Cup Series and would rather go part time in the Cup rather than go full time in trucks or Xfinity, where I don't remember if it was confirmed or not, so take this with a grain of salt, but I believe he had a truck offer lined up and then decided against taking it. So I understand wanting to stay at the highest level of competition in sports car and in America. Of course, NASCAR being the sort of the creme de la creme of auto sport in America. But at the same time, I think he would seriously benefit from a step back from the Cup Series. Maybe just try those other series full time. And I can't remember what driver said it, but they tweeted something along the lines of, yeah, everybody wants to race in Cup, but there's only enjoyment to be found if you have the chance to win. And Corey LaJoie at the moment just doesn't seem like he really has that. I mean, if you're racing part-time, you're already at a bit of a disadvantage, obviously, because you're not getting that weekly data, that weekly experience, weekly time to build the chemistry with your team. Corey LaJoie already, we saw just how much Justin Haley struggled with that switch to Spire late in the season, just because there wasn't that chemistry there. I think Haley's going to be fine, but we did see that teams run things differently than usual. They run things differently than each other. So swapping, if Denny Hamlin swapped from Joe Gibbs to Hendrick in the middle of the season, there's going to be a few races where he's just not used to how things work. So Corey LaJoie, I think, would benefit from just taking a step back. And he didn't really display any growth after moving to Rick Ware, and I don't see it happening without him spending some time away from the Cup. But that's what he's choosing to do, pursuing a part-time Cup career over a full-time career in either trucks or Xfinity. And the thing, of course, that people are taking the most issue with is that he is acting above those drivers, where a lot of drivers in the past, we've seen them as their career has went on, drop down to those lower series and try to win a championship. And there's nothing wrong with that, of course. It's no small feat. These are some of, even though they are lower levels compared to NASCAR, the Cup Series, it is still some of the best drivers on the planet. So winning a Truck Series championship, winning an Xfinity Series championship, it's no small feat, And Corey LaJoie just really downplayed the fans, too, just saying that they don't turn out for these races. But yet at the same time, NASCAR really wants people, the drivers really want people to show up to Rockingham to show that they can still fill up a racetrack. And that whole situation is it's interesting. Corey LaJoie's career is, the future's a bit of a mystery, but we'll see how things work out for him. But speaking of that, I believe he said that on his podcast, the Stacking Pennies podcast, and that was on, I think, Tubi. Yeah, and Tubi now has their 24/7 NASCAR channel. I was enjoying that yesterday. I'm recording this on Thursday, and it was released the 29th of January, and it was great. It has a bunch of classics, a bunch of documentaries of all kinds. So if you're looking for a fix while we wait on the Clash and the 500 to come here in the next few weeks, very good source. And I think HBO Max also just announced that for those of you who watch NASCAR back in the day, I say back in the day, it was like when I started watching. Back in like the late 2000s, there was a thing called NASCAR Hot Pass, and you have the on-cam footage. And I believe now HBO Max for this season, it's starting on the 2nd, the day of the Clash, you can go on HBO and you can select your driver right along with them. So another cool thing for fans to have more access. We've seen a lot more since this TV deal has been signed, and it looks like NASCAR is trying to make things easier to get into now that they're make things easier for fans to watch along with. So they're taking a right step in that direction. Speaking of taking things in the right direction, let's go to taking things in the wrong direction. They announced that there will be no changes for the 2025 playoff system. So all the fans getting up in arms in the 2024 season, especially following, I want to say it was following probably, it was most apparent after the Austin Dillon thing, when people really started wondering what drivers would do to win a race. And Austin Dillon proved what drivers would do to win a race, to make the playoffs, because it is such a jump in points and money that you get in terms of payout and all that. So, and then it really came into question after Daytona, which was, my opinion, one of the greatest races of the season. And it ended with Harrison Burton winning, which should have been a nice feel-good moment, and I still think it is. It was a great moment, but kind of overshadowed by the fact that he took up a spot in the playoffs. And a lot of fans stood with that take. And NASCAR said they were reviewing things in the offseason, and then ultimately decided a few days ago that they were not making any changes to the playoff system, at least this year, but they're going to be watching carefully for serious changes to be made in 2026. And while I hate that we're going to have another season where the playoff champion could end up being some 16th place driver like Joey Logano was and winning the championship, I don't hate it at the same time that they're going to take it, because I wouldn't want them to rush through anything. The only way I would accept them rushing through things is to just say we're going back to the Winston format. That's what we're doing. We're not doing a playoff system. We're not altering how the points are going to be earned. It's just Winston format. That's it. But it would be too close to the season, I believe, to make that change. So you're obviously right in front of the Clash, which drivers and teams are already focused on the Clash. And then, of course, you have the Daytona 500, which is right around the corner, just a week after the Super Bowl. So you have teams already locked into this playoff approach. That's how they're going to try to chase down their championship. And also the schedule was really built for the playoffs. I mean, you have Talladega in the round of 8. So I think what is best is that you take 2025 to listen to your fans, which it seems like they have not been doing, but they are slowly coming around to the idea. And just keep that in mind when building the schedule. So make it more exciting. We're going to Mexico this year. Rockingham is back on the schedule. We have North Wilkesboro as the all-star race. I think you really have to take into consideration what fans are saying, because these are fans who are upset, not because you're NASCAR, but because they were there when things were good. Myself included. I came in, obviously, kind of past the golden era of NASCAR, which was that late 90s, early 1000s, where the NASCAR was like one of the biggest sports in America. And it really peaked in like 2005-ish, viewer-wise. And I came in, obviously, after that. But the sport was still great for several years after that. I mean, while now I think the sport I follow most is the NFL or college football mostly. Football in general I follow the most. NASCAR back in those days, that was what I followed the most. And that had all my attention. I would want to watch NASCAR over NFL games on Sundays. And I just don't think NASCAR has had any reason for fans to think that, especially during the playoffs, because it has made the championship a farce, essentially. Just like, it's useless. No one really cares, I mean, you kind of do, but you kind of don't. NASCAR has lost a lot of its prestige because of this playoff gimmick, where wins don't really have importance. It's just the way to punch a ticket now. We saw it. I think I mentioned it back during the Southern 400 podcast we covered. where I said it didn't feel like Chase Briscoe won the Southern 400. It just felt like he won the last race before the playoffs. And, the Southern 500, or I said the Southern 400. I meant the Southern 500. The Southern 500, Coke 600, Daytona 500, the Brickyard, Talladega. Those tracks are supposed to be special. And that Daytona still is. Like, Daytona has that energy. Especially, it feels like the night race has a lot more energy than the 500 now. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but that's just me. And the Coke 600 is still very fun. 2022 was probably one of the best races I've seen, period, especially for this next-gen car. We saw how great it has the potential to be to make an exciting race like that. We saw the Brickyard last year, it kind of faltered, but the importance was still kind of there. It's just the racing and especially the finish really let everyone down. Like, it was cruising to a good finish before that caution came out, so it's just annoying that some of the top races in our sport don't feel as important anymore. So I think when you build this schedule for 2026, you have to keep in mind that fans are going to keep leaving if you don't start listening to them. And a lot of sports have this problem nowadays where I think, honestly, some of the major sports are really struggling with listening to their fans' feedback. I don't follow hockey that much, but it might be the only sport where I don't hear something being complained about. And I hate saying complained because it sounds like I'm saying whining, but I really do mean complaining, like giving feedback. The NFL obviously has a really bad officiating problem right now. NBA is just nobody's watching. It's impossible to watch a game. Baseball, same thing. It's impossible to watch a game. Obviously, I'm a big... I don't think I've mentioned it, but I'm a big Yankees fan, and I'm kind of lucky that they are on prime time a lot. But if you're a fan of, some of these other teams, you could be in the stadium, but if the MLB deems it, you're not getting the game. I've seen video of people in the Chicago White Sox stadium and looking at the TV in the team store, and the game is blacked out. So you could argue that the MLB is doing them a favor by not showing them the Chicago White Sox, but that's a whole different story. But NASCAR is in a similar thing where the racing in NASCAR has improved since a few years ago. I was watching some races from 2019, 2020, 2021, and they just weren't that fun. Excuse me. Some of those races just weren't that fun. And this racing product is not perfect, and it's far from it. Stage racing has made restrictor plate tracks kind of lose their luster a bit. The road courses are a little iffy. They're getting better. I really enjoyed Watkins Glen last year. But they have something in this 1.5 mile track, in this 1.5 mile package. Short tracks have suffered terribly. However, we saw with Martinsville last year before the season finale, the second to last race of the season, we saw that Martinsville can be good because they have a tire that wears now. And it's very, very, very fun. And I really, really, really enjoyed watching it. I believe I saw something where they're bringing that tire to the Phoenix 1 early in the year, the Phoenix race early in the year. So we might get to see that racing again. But I hope it's not a repeat of what happened with Bristol 2 from last year, where Bristol just was really, really bad. Like, probably the worst race of the season. That first elimination race in the round of 16. But there's potential, but you really need to listen to your fans here. You need, even if it's baby steps, just show that you're improving. They want horsepower. We want horsepower. We want better racing on short tracks and road courses. We want excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm coughing up a storm over here. We want more of that tire wear that we saw at Martinsville. And the biggest thing is that we want to crown a true champion and not just this playoff champion. So I think that NASCAR just needs to, if you fix even one of those for this season, you're going to have everyone on your side because they're going to show that you are taking steps to improve yourself. And I think the easiest thing you can do is announce that at super speedways, at super speedways, no stage cautions. You can have the stages, but no stage cautions. It makes everyone go on the same strategy where they're saving fuel for the first and second stage and they're half throttle until the last bit of the race. And then you have 20 laps of chaos at the end. But you get rid of those stage cautions and you have to make a legit strategy. You can't just coast to the stages. There was nothing more infuriating last year than seeing cars at races that I used to really love looking forward to, Talladega and Daytona, where I was really excited to see what they would do, what the races would play out like. And now it's like, I know what I'm getting for most of it. It's going to be ride around in circles, half throttle for 2.5 hours. And then for the last 30 minutes, that's when they're all out. And no one wants to watch that, because then why don't we just tune in for the last 30 minutes rather than watch the whole race? But NASCAR, like I said, they need to take some advice slowly at a time. I'm not asking for this entire sport to be fixed in 2 weeks, as great as it would be, because we've had these complaints forever. Just show you're making progress, and you'll make the fans very happy. But making fans happy is still the Daytona 500 is still about a week or 2 weeks away. Now we get to focus on what's going to make us happy, which is attending Bowman Gray, attending the Clash. I've never been to an exhibition event before. I've never been to a short track before. I am super, super excited. The more I see on social media, a lot of people are saying it's going to be a mess, but I couldn't disagree more. I know that the short track racing has not been great in NASCAR recently, but still, Bowman Gray at the Madhouse, it's called that for a reason. I've also never seen a modified race, and that's on Saturday, and I really want to get there early just to watch it. I've never seen a modified car in real life. Super excited about that. Get to see some of, obviously, like the local racing action. It's never been to a track like that before. So, looking forward to that. There's going to be, I believe, like four heats on Saturday starting at 8, and then the race 200 laps on 8 p.m. Sunday with I think it's the last chance qualifier at 6. A lot to do. I'm really excited for the thing. I'm always excited about going to races. It's what I looked forward to the most when I went to Pocono. I used to go to Pocono Raceway growing up as a kid, and the fanfare was always my favorite part. And they had a big one. It was a really big fanfare there. Where all the, there'll be the drivers. It was like the Sprint Challenge or the Sprint Booth or something back in the day, back when they still sponsored the sport. And then, obviously, like, we had tailgating too, because it was just such a big place. And then now that I'm a little older, I went to Darlington the last 2 races, and the most I enjoyed about that were like the fan shops. Or the shop set up outside of the track. I really enjoyed talking to some of the people there, hearing all the fans' stories about where they came from. Met some people in May last year at Darlington who lived very close to where I did when I was in New York. So it was really cool. And that's what I'm looking forward to at Bowman Gray. Like I said, I've never been to Bowman Gray. I don't know what to expect. But that is a tiny, tiny track, and I'm super, super excited to see how things end up. I just think that it is going to be crazy. I anticipate that. I anticipate it being super crazy, and just the chaos that always comes with racing in Bowman Gray leaks into the Cup Series, and I know that it's like a stereotype for NASCAR to be about the crashes, and I don't want crashes. I don't wish for crashes, but I am looking forward to tempers. I just know that these guys who have been in the Cup Series or something, I feel like I know Kyle Busch is going to get competitive. I feel like I know Denny Hamlin's going to get competitive. I'm super, super excited about seeing that, and I can't wait to see what kind of racing this produces. I don't know if this is going to be a long-term race for NASCAR. I thought the Coliseum was going to be a regular thing. I thought it was going to last more than I think we had it for 3 years. I thought it would last for more than that. But I do appreciate it coming back to the Carolinas, where race. Oh, just slapped the mic arm there. I do appreciate NASCAR coming back to the South, in the heart of Carolina, where of course they got their roots. I'm super, super excited to see what the fans are like there. I know it. I have a feeling it's going to be a good mixture of the local crowd and then also the fans that always come out to races. Like I said, I've never been to a short track, and now I'm going to a place that's called the Madhouse. And I haven't even been to like a demolition derby or anything like that. So this whole thing is going to be a brand new experience all around. But I guess we can just get into some predictions real quick. I'm not going to look too far ahead to the Daytona 500. That's plenty of time to do that and give our predictions for the end of the year. Our way far out playoff predictions. We did it at the end of last season. We'll go back and compare, contrast if our opinions have changed on that next episode. But I would like to do that with Tony not being sick. That would probably be a little more entertaining, I'm sure. But I'm just going to predict on my own who I think is going to win the Clash. Denny Hamlin at the forefront, great short track racer, great exhibition racer. And I just have a feeling that it's going to be Denny Hamlin. It might be the Denny Hamlin show. Like, he might just dominate, because we've seen these exhibition races. There'll be like 2 leaders and one of them will lead for 99% of the race. I think Joey Logano is another guy to watch. I know it is an exhibition race, or excuse me, not the exhibition race. It's an odd year, so he's probably not going to be competitive in any capacity, maybe steal a win here or there, but probably one of them might be either this or he'll win the All-Star race again. And as much as I want to say, I really want to say Kyle Larson is going to win it too, but I just don't see it. I don't know. I don't know why. I just don't know if he would win this. He obviously has a capability. He could win at just about any racetrack on the planet if he really wanted to, apparently excluding a super speedway. But me saying that probably means he's going to win the Daytona 500 this year. And I would have to say my last guy might be a bit of a homer, but I think Tyler Reddick has a really good shot at this. He just looked so good last year in every race ever. And of course, this could all change come Saturday, once the qualifying and the heats finish up. I mean, some of the guys I say might not even be in the race. So definitely going to be looking forward to those heats. Don't really know how they're going to turn out. There's no real way to see that, to predict it. Of course, you have your favorites, but still very excited to see how that's going to turn out. So as I was recording this, I thought to look up what some of the NASCAR reporters are saying, and thankfully the living legend Bob Pockrass broke it all down with the format, and I'll just read it real quick. Think of it as our last turn here, just to get everyone caught up to speed as we go into this race weekend, the first of 2025. So there's 39 entries for the Clash. Of course, we have our usual 40 car field that we're used to, but I don't think 40 cars are fitting on Bowman Gray's pavement, even if you stack them 3 wide. So it's going to be split, 39 cars split into 3 groups, 2 practice sessions of 8 minutes each, and then those groups will be split into 2 groups and then they will have a 4-minute practice session where their best laps will be the lineup for the heat races. 4 heats, 3 heats with 10 cars, 1 with 9, 25 laps apiece on Saturday night. Fastest car from qualifying will be on the pole for the first heat, second fastest on pole for the second heat, yada, 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 yada. Only green flag laps count, and there will be no overtime. And then top 5 in each heat event advance to the main event, and the remaining 19 cars will compete in a 75-lap race on Sunday, with the top 2 cars advancing to the main event. Of the 17, the competitor who had the highest driver points in the 2024 season will get the 23rd spot. All right, that was all from Bob Pockrass, Fox Sports. I just read it. Read it verbatim there. So that's how it's going to work. This is what I would like racing to be, is just a lot of time with cars on track. And as much as I am excited to see what Bowman Gray is all about, I would love to eventually see the Clash work its way back to Daytona, bring us back speed weeks, bring us back preseason testing, bring us back what it was called the Budweiser Shootout back in the day. And just make that Daytona the Daytona 500 that much more special again. I mentioned last year it felt like a lot of these special races were really bogged down. It didn't help that 3 out of 4 were pretty lackluster. You know, you had Daytona 500, the controversy because where the caution came out and how long they held on to it or how long they didn't hold on to it. Excuse me. You had the Coke 600, which was stopped for humidity. You had the Brickyard 400, which was coming up to a good finish, and then obviously the overtime debacle there too. And then the only good one, 100% of the way through, was the Southern 500. So, where we didn't have a great track record, no pun intended, last year. Really hoping that we get a full... all I'm asking for are the crown jewels to be crown jewels again. I would love to have those important races that everybody loves be that important again. You've seen in the past a lot of drivers. There used to be like 50, 60 guys trying to qualify for the Daytona 500. It was just such a big deal. Now you have guys like Kyle Larson who say that like winning the Chili Bowl is more important to him than winning the 500. So it used to be the biggest event in America, American motorsports, behind probably the Indy 500. And even the Indy 500 kind of fell off for a bit. So I hope that this is just where the 500 is, and the Indy 500 has kind of roared back to life and popularity and excitement. In the last few years that I've been watching IndyCar, the Indy 500 has felt like the Indy 500. It just feels like the special historic race that it's advertised to be, and I think that's what the 500 needs to do. They're just in a bit of a lull. I think that race is going to be fine. Of course, it's the Daytona 500. Even if someone says, like Kyle Larson says, that they would prefer to win a Chili Bowl over the 500. If he wins the Daytona 500, I'm sure he's still going to be pretty excited to win the Daytona 500. But enough about that. We are looking forward to the Clash this Sunday. Saturday is when the qualifying and the heat races are. Sunday is when the racing is. Of course, we have, like I said, the modified race early on Saturday. Early Saturday, I believe, like at 1:30, the modifieds race. But the NASCAR Cup Series starting on Saturday, the qualifying, the practice, and the heats. Super excited to see what kind of racing the Madhouse brings out. And we will be trying to get you guys some really unique content from Bowman Gray Stadium. We're going to see what we can do once we're up there, get a good feel of it. And more than anything, let's just hope for a great 2025 season. Let's hope it's the last one with the playoffs, or at least this present version of the playoffs, and just make it a memorable one. Let's hope that it's the best one of the 2020s thus far. But as for now, I was Adam, Tony, again, back at home sick. trying to get better before we head out to Winston-Salem for the 2025 Clash. Very excited again. We're back to racing, folks. We got cars on track this week. Nothing to be sad about anymore when we got NASCAR until November. That's a great, great thing to hear, isn't it? But thank you again. Thank you guys so much. We will be talking to you. As always, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment. We really want to interact with you guys. And not just here, but on our social media pages. And we will do our best to interact with you guys. We'd also like to remind you guys, we are going to be doing, for those of you who follow the Ladies First portion of this channel, the Ladies First podcast, we did a watch along for that UCLA USC game live on YouTube and Facebook, and we really want to do that again. So we're going to be doing that for the Daytona 500. So, of course, for the biggest race of the year, please be sure to tune in. That'll be right here on our YouTube channel, The Northern South. All you got to do, once we go live, you will be able to come to our channel and click on it. But we'll get that all set out for you next time when we preview the Daytona 500, recap the Clash, and thank you guys again so much for watching, thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time. Thank you for pulling into the Palmetto Pit Stop.